Let's move ahead with the program to the session Clusters in the New Normal. And we start with a section about the global cluster response to COVID, how clusters have navigated the consequences of something that started as a health crisis and turned to be a test in many ways for our economies and our societies. On March 25, when it all started, in most of the world, China had been a bit ahead, but most of the world was by that time. The TCI members gathered in a virtual meeting that we call Mobilizing the TCI Network to Face COVID-19. And we discussed how clusters around the world were helping businesses to cope with the COVID crisis. We produced this infographic that I share with you with tips on how to navigate in these turbulent times. One of the things that we saw is that clusters could play a key role as being a neutral platform to deal with the shock. They interacted all the time with members, listened to their needs, facilitated communication in different online platforms. They were also a support to members to be a change agent and be a change agent for companies. They supported members in deep changes. They keep them informed. They shared aid packages from different authorities, have regular meetings to share insights and to share very valuable information that otherwise was not able to have. They also help to transform into the next phase, and this is something that has been developed more and more over the following months, and we will talk more today about all that. Bring new solutions and adapt productions, especially for the health sector. Use the ecosystem behind the cluster. There are a lot of new partnerships being formed, and it's necessary to read the new dynamics of your cluster ecosystem. We also see cross-clustering. Global connection is even more important for inspiration, for linkages, for more opportunities coming up for clusters. And many more things like upskilling, reskilling, potential, the ability to initiate new projects, and so on. We also received 2 very nice videos that we will watch now from both in South Africa and Queretaro Automotive Cluster on the response to COVID that we want to share with you. It is great to see how clusters are using more and more new formats to communicate their cluster stories. Enjoy the videos.
South Africa, one of the most beautiful places on earth, some of the most beautiful boats, a country of fierce contrast and delicate symmetry. On March 5th, the first confirmed case of COVID-19, the disease caused by the coronavirus. The Rainbow Nation narrative changes overnight. Fear, quarantine, lockdown. The marinas and boatyards close, along with almost the entire manufacturing sector. Boat builders are told to close up shop until further notice. Faced with an extended layoff, with order books stuck in limbo, boat builders spring into action. They finalize a list of strict workplace health and safety protocols, focusing on infection control. By early April, the yards are allowed to reopen at 50% capacity. By the 1st of June, the yards are back at full force, with a comprehensive government-approved plan in place. Quick thinking and collective action has allowed the sector to ramp up production ahead of the curve. Detailed risk-adjusted measures are now in place. Boat and work environments are being constantly sanitized, and staff have received instruction and training in workplace safety. Mask etiquette, regular temperature testing, shift work, distancing on the shop floor and in offices, paper towels, and on the boat no more than 1 person per 3 square meters. Most boatyards are going beyond the mandatory government requirements, including private transport options for staff, tally boards for when staff are on the boat, and once the deck has been bonded, creating discrete work units so that staff members do not have to come into contact with the entire workforce, staggering start times for work, and using high visibility vests for staff who must move between different work areas to highlight social distancing needs. The business unusual approach has even prompted business innovation in the form of new sanitizing equipment, a kind of foot-controlled hand sanitizer, and other walk-through spraying infrastructure. Close cooperation has paved the way for a successful phased return to economic activity to ensure jobs are retained and exports are able to take place, generating much-needed foreign currency revenue for the country. South Africa's world-leading yards have proved their resilience over the years. They're doing it again, one day at a time, one boat at a time, staying safe today to ensure a prosperous tomorrow.
Como sabemos, el mundo entero enfrenta un gran reto. Un enemigo totalmente nuevo que no conoce fronteras ni condiciones irrumpió de manera súbita en nuestras vidas.
Cambió todo. La escuela de nuestros hijos, la dinámica familiar, nuestro lugar de trabajo. Todo lo que comprendíamos como normal dejó de serlo.
Nuestro sector no es ajeno a esto. En todo el mundo se tomaron decisiones pensando en cuidar la salud de las personas que trabajamos en las plantas.
Primero, respetando las indicaciones de las autoridades, tuvimos que suspender operaciones. Detuvimos el motor por un breve momento.
Pero de inmediato comenzamos a prepararnos para regresar. Todas las empresas del clúster comenzamos a apoyarnos,
compartiendo estrategias y medidas de prevención con las que ahora deberíamos que contar.
La mancuerna con el gobierno del estado fue vital para transitar por este proceso exitosamente. Era tiempo de prepararse.
Nos hemos esforzado de la mejor manera. Hemos invertido, nos hemos capacitado, nos hemos adaptado. No se ha escatimado ningún esfuerzo.
Pero sobre todo nos hemos comprometido para que cada persona que entra por las puertas de una de nuestras plantas se sienta y esté segura.
Siguiendo todos los protocolos, respetando y excediendo los procedimientos que las autoridades han marcado, hemos comenzado a volver al lugar que muchos consideramos una segunda casa, nuestro lugar de trabajo.
Hoy todo ha cambiado, todos hemos cambiado. Tenemos un escenario retador frente a nosotros, pero si trabajamos juntos, somos solidarios y responsables,
podremos seguir haciendo del esfuerzo colectivo que vivimos todos los días en nuestras plantas el catalizador para seguir logrando nuestros sueños personales.
Estamos de vuelta, estamos trabajando y lo más importante, estamos cuidando de nosotros. Ahora es tiempo de volver a encender el motor de la economía queretana.
This is one of my favorite examples on how companies and board members empower themselves and communicate the cluster message with great passion. Now it's time to move to a conversation, the conversations that we like so much in TCI. Can you see the button conversation in the menu of the conference platform? Just wait a minute. That will transfer us to a Zoom space where we will have our next conversation with cluster managers. You will be asked to log in with your name and your email. Please click to conversation and see you all on Zoom. We connect there. And we have invited 4 members of the TCI network to be in this conversation: Ásta, Stewart, Adolfo, and Emma. I will make 2 rounds with 2 questions to the 4 of them. And at the end, we will have some time for interaction with all the conference participants, so please get ready. The first question is for Ásta. Ásta, from your perspective, how are clusters proving to be drivers of recovery?
Well, first of all, nice to be here with you today, though I would have rather met you all in person, but we will come to that. later. Yeah, this is a big question, but a really important one. And I think it lies a little bit in the DNA of the clusters. Like we all know that are gathered here today, we are really focused on our members and how we run fast to solve their problems, how to build bridges between them and so on. So I think that in the question before, we talked about what was the one thing that you would choose and rethinking the business models and helping them rethinking both the members and also the governments and the municipalities and so on. We are trying to make them run fast and stay in shape. So I think that is a really important drive of the recovery, that we are always trying to be one step ahead and leading the changes in a way. So I think that is an important thing to start with.
Thank you, Ásta. Let's move to Stewart, to one of the superclusters in Canada. Stewart, what is in your perspective? How are clusters proving to be drivers of recovery?
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Like Ásta, I wish we were meeting in person, maybe next year. The first thing we needed to do, Patricia, was fill critical needs in Canada. And so the Supercluster did a large pivot toward the production of PPE, medical devices, test equipment. We're supporting vaccine development. And so we funded around $60 million of immediate programs. And so there was a real urgency and there was a need for a pivot for manufacturing in Canada. We had strong manufacturing sectors in automotive and aerospace and others that we moved into COVID response. Beyond that, though, we started identifying ways for companies in industries that were not well supported or would not be well supported for a while, such as aerospace, to pivot into new industries. And so we prepared materials to help companies understand how they could transform into new quality certifications. And we did white papers and seminars. We did we've been doing a lot of sessions around operating safely and protecting workers during COVID. So those are the intermediate term actions. And in the longer term, we've launched an upskilling initiative, and we're providing training across Canada, where we've been negotiating critical skills development training with colleges and universities, with industrial training organizations. And then the Supercluster is funding 50% of the training costs directly to the trainer to help companies, especially companies with workers who are on furlough or being underutilized, start to pivot their people and upskill their people so that when the recovery happens, the companies are better positioned. And as a Supercluster, we work very closely with a number of clusters across Canada. And so we consider ourselves a bit of a cluster of clusters. And so we've been quite active in trying to mobilize manufacturing through clustering and local regional associations.
Thank you, Stewart. Adolfo, how about Medellin? You have been active in very important conversations in the city and the region in this special time for the health sector, right?
Hi, Patricia. Hi, everybody. Yes. And in addition, I had the wonderful experience and the high responsibility to be part of the team of the government of Antioquia. Antioquia is the state where is located Medellin. And I was part of the team that worked as a staff for the governor in order to plan how to act in face of the pandemic. It was a really very important experience, a wonderful opportunity to understand the different actions that different clusters, the companies, the industry, the university were doing in order to understand the challenge of the pandemic and to work hard how to respond at this big challenge.
Thank you very much. Let's go to our fourth guest, Emma from Sunshine Coast, Food and Agribusiness Network in Australia.
Thanks, Patricia. It's wonderful to be here, and yeah, as echoing our other speakers today, wish we were doing it in person. So fingers crossed for 2021. Look, for us, this experience, we're only 5 years young as a cluster, and this experience through this pandemic has demonstrated to us that inherent to clusters is building resilience. We've heard lots and lots of discussion around resilience during this time, and I've really seen that is what the cluster model does. So for us, we really saw very quickly our members moving from that shock stage to survival and transformation, and they were able to do that because there was an ecosystem already in place where they knew each other, they had relationships developed, there was a lot of trust. And so what we were able to see was in some cases a lot of our members lost market channels. We're in the food industry, so in some ways that's been a very positive sector through this period, but lots of our members did lose specific channels, whether it be export or food service, and so they were able to reach out to other members and then find new channels through their markets, because retail and direct to consumer really exploded during this time. So our learning has been that this is a way to support obviously our businesses and our industries to get through a pandemic like this. We hope we never have one again, but I think that overall we've really seen the importance of the cluster model building that resilience.
Thank you, Emma. Let's move to the second question. We want to also listen what you think about the challenges ahead. What are still the challenges ahead that you are facing and where you will be working in the following months? Let's make the round again with Ásta from Iceland Tourism Cluster.
Yes. Well, in Iceland, like some of you might know, we are kind of used to crisis, whether it's like financial crisis or crisis of the nature. So the resilience of the people working in tourism industry or any other industry in Iceland is quite high. But this is, of course, like no other pandemic and situation that we are facing right now. So I mean, what we are facing ahead, we started this initiative in the start of April that we called Restart Tourism. And what we are facing now is, and the challenge ahead, is the uncertainty that is still not knowing of the time where we can really start over. So we really need to motivate our members and the industry and all the value chain around it to be in shape, to not just stop and wait, to keep on going, because that is our role to do, to keep people motivated and try to have them, still have this hope for the future. So people are getting a little tired, and we need to show them that there's hope ahead. And what has been like really useful, and I see as a great opportunity, and have had that like the start of this pandemic, was this great cooperation between everyone in the TCI membership, where you just started this webinars and everything, and we did that parallel also in our cluster, and also how the cooperation between different clusters in Iceland have been growing. And I think when we can mix that more together and work more together between industries, I think that will show us the possibilities on how to use the workforce now, how to keep everyone, thriving and wanting solutions. So that is that will be challenging, but that's also a huge opportunity, and the opportunities, they are there, and we need to be the one that drive that force, ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ásta. Stewart, how about your vision? What are the challenges ahead?
Well, we with the type of crisis we're undergoing, of course, there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of opportunity. But one of the challenges we have in Canada is, although we have fantastic and very, very creative, innovative companies, they're very small. And by comparison to the US, for example, there are only a couple hundred Canadian manufacturers with more than 500 employees. Mm-hmm. And these small companies are essential to the Canadian manufacturing supply chain. But Canada isn't nearly far enough along in the clustering initiative. And we see it as essential that we help small companies understand more fundamentally the need for collaboration in a formal sense. So we have some great clusters. Blue Water Wood Alliance, for example, is a Portarian cluster in Ontario that does a fantastic job. But a lot of we have a lot of business associations. We don't have a lot of formal clusters. And what people in Canada are very cooperative, but they don't really collaborate the way they need to. And so the Supercluster has a cluster building initiative, and we provide some funding to try to bring companies together to form clusters with the hope that we can move them into Portarian cluster building. And we're right now talking to 29 groups across Canada in different sectors, industries, and regions. And we're trying to support their proposals to come to us for support to build clusters, because we don't know that we'll be able to hold on to the manufacturing we have if we don't teach small companies how to play bigger in the world market, meaning working together better and taking advantage of one another's strengths for mutual growth. And so a lot of opportunity for Canada, but certainly we have some challenges ahead.
The importance of the size in these times where more is needed in terms of resilience. Absolutely, thank you. Adolfo, how about Medellin, Health City, your cluster? What are your challenges ahead still?
Okay, we have to support our new normal, our new future in the same strengths that let us work as a cluster. Probably we need to move to new step in the same line of development of our initiative. One of them is learning. Now we need to learning, to reference, to investigate about the challenge that we have with this new phenomenon. In addition, collaboration is the same recipe. We need to collaborate, but now we have a big challenge in how to work together like intercluster initiative. We understand that is the opportunity to develop new projects around how to work together, how to work intercluster. This experience was a wonderful experience how to do it. For example, telemedicine is a wonderful learning that we got in this situation. The cluster of clothing and fashion work, they transform the production line in order to produce face masks. It's one of multiple examples that we need to work together like intercluster process. We need to accelerate the digital transformation of the health industry. It's a big challenge, but in addition, it's a big opportunity. It's not only to use some emerging technologies, it's really to rethink the business model, it's to rethink how to do in order to understand better and act very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Adolfo. And now, Emma, how about you? What do you think are still the challenges ahead?
Look, internally, from our cluster perspective, I think like many clusters during this period, a lot of our revenue streams have seriously decreased. So a lot of the traditional ways that we brought in revenue through sponsorship and events has dried up. So that's necessitating us as a cluster to look at what our future business model is, which we're going through that process at the moment. And that has its opportunities, because I think particularly here in Australia, probably a little bit like Canada, we don't have a mature cluster history, and so we need to look at innovative ways of how we develop those cluster models here. So we're working with our members on that at the moment. And externally, I think for clusters, we need to hold the space at the moment. I'm finding in our regions that a lot of people are making their worlds a lot smaller, and we understand that, because when crisis happens, people go within. That can be challenging though, because clusters, we're about growth and looking out. And so for us, we're really just holding that space, acknowledging that businesses and individuals are where they need to be right now, but we need to make sure that when they start to look out again, that we're still there and we're still driving a positive agenda forward for growth.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's go now to a round of conversation with the rest of the group. Someone wants to raise a question to the 4 cluster managers with us today? Questions? Raise hands. Natasha Polonova is asking what has been achieved so far via the Supercluster. Stewart, I think we are all more eager to know more about the Superclusters initiative. What do you think has been your achievement so far?
Well, the Supercluster operates in a couple of different major streams. I mean, the primary funding goes into projects, and the projects we fund have 4 requirements. They have to be collaborative. They require multiple companies, and we define collaboration as shared risk, shared reward. So we're pretty sensitive that people don't come to us with subcontracting agreements and call them collaborations. They have to be applied, so we're looking for relatively near-term payoffs. The projects have to make a delivery. They have to be transformative. The Canadian government has told us to only fund things that are absolutely transformative rather than funding continuous improvement. And the logic is that good companies do continuous improvement, but great companies are transformed. And they have to leave an enduring benefit to Canada. And so we're looking for outflows of best practices, sharing of knowledge, IP creation, and training. And so with those pillars, we funded about 60 projects now. The projects are all over the spectrum of manufacturing. They're different industries, from mining and oil fields to food preparation to aerospace to automotive, biomedical, of course, in particular. There's been a big pivot there. But they're all different verticals. But they all have those common requirements. And so we believe that those are seeds not only to help those companies develop, but there's longer term benefit, we hope, to the Canadian manufacturing economy coming out of those programs. And some of the programs have already completed and have been quite successful. And some of the programs will run for as much as another 2+ years. The other part of what we've done, though, is we provided an industry-based strategic assessment of manufacturing in Canada. And so the upskilling initiatives are curated, and they're based on the skills that we understand from our assessments of the Canadian manufacturing economy, from roundtables and things that we've done so that we only offer specific training that we think companies tend to overlook. And we're trying to create leadership skills and problem-solving skills, but more formal development. And we've got so far about 20 courses in our catalog, and we're adding more all the time. But it's a curated training initiative rather than a go learn anything you want to learn. And we're getting into some great conversations with training organizations now. We're starting to find ways to connect organizations across the country. So we're actually facilitating introductions between schools in the western part of Canada and schools in Atlantic Canada and other organizations to have broader conversations. So that's an impact we think that we have as a major connector. Again, I don't want to take up all the time, so I think I'll stop there. But there's an awful lot of interesting stuff going on with the Supercluster.
Thank you, Stewart. Manuel, I think you want to make a question. I think you can make it live. It's a question to Ásta, right? Hello, Manuel Montoya from Monterrey.
Yes. Thank you, Patricia. Now, I want to ask Ásta. She was telling that they are motivating the company. But how can you motivate if they don't have an activity? How do they get some income? Are there some government funds to help the companies in the time being?
Yes, thanks for that question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The question was to me, wasn't it?
Yes,
it is. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a really good question, and of course, we are built up as you know, having webinars, having workshops, having events, having something physical to do with our members. So it can be really hard to motivate them when we can't meet them and can't, you know, be with them. But what we did straight from the beginning, we had these webinars going on to make them, you know, to connect them together, to have this peer-to-peer so they could talk together and find solutions together also. Then we have had hackathons and all kind of, you know, solution building together. The government has come into this in a way, helping the companies close down, giving them grants and funding to survive through a period of paying salaries and so on. But all the liquidity is just gone out of the industry. And I mean, they are facing 90 to 95% lesser income this year than the year before. So they are more or less all closed in a way. So that is really hard to try to motivate business owners that don't have any income and don't see, you know, what is ahead. And the government needs to do so much more to help these companies. And I say not help them, but invest in them so they can stand strong when we start again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Manuel. We have a lot of questions, and I'm going to ask you to keep them for the global networking because we have to move ahead in the program. Thank you so much to the four of you, Ásta, Stewart, Adolfo, Emma. This was great, and you are doing great. Let's go ahead with the second question to the TCI community. Where do clusters have yet to improve? And we give you 4 options here. Redefining the cluster to be on the forefront of new needs, grasping the digital and green opportunities to benefit their ecosystem, develop their ecosystem to integrate all stakeholders. We need all on board to deal with recovery. And the last one is take a strong leadership in their ecosystems, going beyond the role as facilitator. Okay. Thank you for voting. We'll see responses are coming. There's not so much consensus here. It seems that it's changing now and then. Let's give it some more time and see what you are thinking. I remind you the 4 options: redefining the cluster to be on the forefront of new needs, grasping the digital and green opportunities to benefit their ecosystem, develop their ecosystem to integrate all stakeholders. We need all on board to deal with the recovery. The fourth one is take a strong leadership in their ecosystems, going beyond the role as facilitator. Yeah. Oh, everything seems important, and we have yet to improve. But now it seems that taking a strong leadership in their ecosystems and going beyond their role of facilitator is something that is getting more and more important in the new normal for clusters. Thank you very much. It's going to be active. If you still haven't voted, you can do it, and we will see the result at the end. In TCI, we want to inspire new models of high-performing clusters. Here we have two inspiring videos of two clusters with a great vision for the future. The Paper Province in Sweden and Odense Robotics in Denmark, enjoying their vision for the future.
This is where we live. We've learned that our trees can be used for most anything. From toys, to buildings, packaging, and to realize dreams. Today, we know how to process wood to replace fossil fuels. Sustainable fuels, plastics and cloth, can spring from our forests. Just imagine the amount of people wanting to see a change. What would happen if they knew this opportunity was waiting for us? When our planet begs for change, there is only one answer. Go for cutting-edge research, sustainable resources, and a uniquely close partnership between innovators, entrepreneurs, producers, and financiers. The materials are in our forests, and our companies have the know-how. Together, we can create what our planet really needs. Because we can. Because we have to, if we're going to go on living here. Because it's a responsibility we shoulder with pride. Because we are Paper Province.
Robots are changing our world. They're revolutionizing the way we collaborate, the way we think, the way we work, and the way we create. Robots are helping people work smarter and businesses grow stronger. So imagine a place where robotics companies are collaborating instead of competing, where the ecosystem is capable of commercializing startups and new technologies, where you will find an international test center for drones, and where the university is so good it won the unofficial world championship in robotics. That place is the Danish city of Odense. Maybe you've heard of something called Universal Robots.
We wanted to make a robot that is more like a tool that helps people do their work, more than this big machine behind a fence that steals people's jobs.
The team created what today is known as collaborative robots, or cobots. In 2015, everything changed. Universal Robots was acquired for $285 million.
It actually opened the eyes for the world at large.
Everybody will start talking about the future is collaborative robots.
Prior to UR, there was a lot of talk about all the things that never worked in Odense. And now people, they talk about all the things that are possible.
So everybody suddenly realized there's something special going on in Odense.
And this was only the beginning, because it wasn't just Universal Robots.
There's a whole string of equally great companies in the making. Companies that are also growing at phenomenal rates of more than 50% a year.
Ranging from startups to large corporations, Odense now houses dozens of robotics companies and a total of several thousand employees.
I have not seen any denser cluster of robot technology anywhere else. We have the university with the world-class research. We have Technological Institute, which brings technology out to the industries. And then we have the local government, who's all for robotics and all for robots.
People see each other as colleagues more than competitors.
Companies are building their own business on other companies also.
And they need each other. So they exchange information, they even exchange people.
We have some extremely exciting jobs here that you cannot find in other cities.
The limiting factor on high-tech industries is usually talent. And talent is attracted by talent. And the critical mass of talent is in Odense.
There's a huge interest in investing in Odense now.
And it's been a lot easier for the startups to raise funding.
When you come out and say that you are part of the Odense Robot Cluster, you get an ear with the customers.
But Odense needs more. It needs you.
We are already one of the leading cities in the world, but I think that Odense as a robotics city can grow even further.
It's probably one of the best places in the world to start building robot businesses, and that's why Odense has become, you can say, a rising star in the robot scene in the world.
If you are able to succeed in robotics, then it's here.